Hi, welcome to Healing Humanity. My name is Dina, and I want to talk to you today a little bit about sacrifice and fasting. So, when I found out that I was sick quite a while ago, not sick anymore, but at the time I was, um, one of the things that I started to learn, in being diagnosed with cancer, I learned that a lot of the trouble that our body goes through is because of the food that we eat. Now, I guess it should have been normal knowledge, but you don't think about that as much, especially if you're just going on doing your own thing and living your life as most folks do. We eat, we drink, we don't think much about what we put into our bodies. So I started to look into how to improve, like what to do if you're diagnosed with cancer. And I came across a lot of information about, um, information about holistic healing, information about that was shared by Dr. Sebi, who was a doctor. I don't know where he was out of, but um, he has since passed away, sadly. But he shared information on how to heal yourself from cancer and how he helped people heal from cancer. And it was pretty, all of his stuff is pretty amazing. If you get a chance to look at it, I would definitely do that. So during this process of learning, what to take into my body and what not to take into my body, learned about not eating things out of cans unless it's, beans or some form of legumes. Um, and now if I open a can, like I wanted to eat some pineapple one day, but I didn't want to struggle with an entire pineapple. I have a smaller refrigerator, and I didn't want to find a place to store it. So I bought a can of pineapple, thinking, okay, it won't be that bad. It was terrible. Um, I couldn't. I had one piece, and I could barely finish the one piece because the I could taste the metal in it. And a long time ago, when I quit, and I had quit for about 6 months eating anything out of a can, I tried tomato soup, thinking that won't be bad. Horrible, also. Um, so I would say to you, do these things that I kind of mentioned to you, or do your own research, because don't wait until you're sick to do it. I guess is what I'm saying. Make those sacrifices now before something bad happens. I had to do it because I was afraid. I just literally I was afraid. Um, and then through that process, I started to talk to the doctor, and I um, told her what I was doing, and she was surprised. And I said, "Well, why are you surprised?" She said, "Because most people won't take those steps to help themselves, because um, the more you take in sugar, the it gets cancer cells feed on sugar. So I had to stop taking in any kind of processed sugars, and that helped. Not eating processed foods. I loved pepperoni, um, and I stopped taking that. I stopped eating lunch meats that has a lot of processing in it and a lot of salt. Um, so I just changed a lot of what I was doing over a course of just a couple years. And then taking it another step further, I started to seek God. That if I didn't survive this cancer thing, was I going to be okay in my soul? I had made a lot of mistakes. I was not perfect. I had a temper. I was, um, not faithful in one of my relationships. And um, I looked back and I thought, well, I'm probably not, I'm probably a sinner. So, most likely a sinner, just like we all are. Um, but so I went searching for God, and I found that path, and I started to read the Bible. And a lot of the Bible talked about fasting. And well, lo and behold, so did a lot of the material that I was reading about curing or helping to alleviate disease in our bodies. And So I said, okay, well, I'll give that a try. So what I did is I did try fasting. I tried it for a day, and then I tried it for 3 days, and then I tried it for 7 days. And I really felt comfortable with the 7 days. So I've done that several times. And I did a little program on this on how to do it without any kind of cravings and that kind of thing. If you are going to try it, I would recommend that you um, sacrifice, 1 or 2 days before and do like a juicing or smoothies, even something more of a liquid based diet for a day or two before you jump into your fast, because that'll help to clean out your system a little bit. But I did that and I was amazed at what occurred in my body. So I used to have, get little zits or whatever on my face, and my pores were pretty opened on my cheeks, and all of that changed. I also had arthritis in one of my toes, and I was starting not to be able to wear high heel shoes, which I loved. And so once I fasted that first time for 7 days, I found that I could wear my shoes again without any pain, and I haven't had pain since. It's an amazing tool that we can use. And what's wild about it is, as I was seeking God, I learned that all throughout the Bible, they used fasting as well to become healthier, of course, but they used it as a tool of repentance and to show God humility and to seek God, to seek His assistance and guidance and His comfort, you know. So I'm just going to describe the three types of fasts that I found. And is it three? Yeah. Well, three, and then there's one small fourth. But so the first one is Daniel's fast, which is Daniel chapter 10. And he ate no meat, no wine, no rich or processed foods for 3 weeks. He also, I just read it again, he also didn't use lotions. He had no lotions, which I thought was kind of telling, because as you're going through these processes with, you know, battling cancer or fighting some form of disease, they do tell you to change, some of the things that you're putting onto your skin, change the water that you're drinking, so many things. And so anyway, through his fasting, he did this, like I said, for 3 weeks. An angel appeared to him. And it sounds to me as if the angel sort of appeared out of nowhere in front of him, and nobody else could see it but him. And he came to strengthen him, and he came to give him a word from God. And it just, I just found that was amazing. Like, it's an amazing possibility. There's no guarantee. I didn't see any entity or angel or anything like that, but it did help me with my health, and that was truly my intent. So I think it's an amazing tool for all of us to use, to sacrifice portions of our days in order to recenter our body, to choose that humility, and to choose that healing, and to choose possibly to seek God during that period as well. Um, fasting can honestly crush your pride. That's why I say humility, because we're so used to doing the quick fixes, and we're so used to doing whatever we want to do. We don't take time to trust that God or the universe has ways for us to heal ourselves, has ways to help one another heal, energetically. I think when we take that stand and we deny our flesh, it just shows God just how strong we believe in His ability to take care of us. And then the other one is the Esther fast. That's a total fast, and Paul did that on the road to Damascus, and Esther did. Esther actually Queen Esther called that of her city. I don't know if it was a country or city, but she called everyone to fast for 3 days, no food, no water, for those 3 days. And in order to have God intercede and save them, they were in a really tough spot. And she did win supernatural favor for this. And this is certainly not a casual fasting. This is something very serious. This is if let's say you have an illness within your body and you want to see if you can heal it quicker. This may be a tool for you to use. It also may be a tool that you would use in some form of spiritual warfare if you're being spiritually attacked. And some people, if you don't experience that, congratulations. It's not fun, but it's real. Those kinds of situations can be really impossible, and they can be really difficult to break free from. And fasting can absolutely help that. And I've used that before myself, once or twice. The people and the entities that attack us spiritually, it happens because they thrive on the fear and they thrive on the hopelessness of the being that they're attacking. They thrive on just breaking someone down, and then they can just feed off of that fear and the hopelessness and the despair that people feel in those moments. And the more you're attacked, the worse it gets. So that kind of fast, that total fast, helps to just break that cycle and to break them, their ties to you. And then there's the 40-day fast, which we all know about because that's what Jesus did. He went into the wilderness and he fasted for 4 days. What I didn't realize is that Moses did it as well. And Elijah also had a 40-day fast. That I just learned this evening. And the disciples wanted to understand why they couldn't cast out, demons in people. Because there are some people that can, Jesus taught his disciples how to see the evil in others, how to see the evil behind them, or within them, not behind them, but within them. And Jesus said to them, this kind doesn't go out except by prayer and fasting. And so that's something that, if you believe, this is something to take quite seriously. And I don't know whether you need to fast for 40 days to be able to break those entities from people, from sucking the life out of these people, or whether a 3-day fast will do that. But Jesus definitely, had some supernatural favor. So did Elijah, and Moses absolutely had favor. And it was from that prolonged fast. It was from, several days of just consistent prayer and fasting, and taking those 40 days and concentrating on their relationship with God, to move through their own mind, to silence their mind, silence their own needs, their fleshly needs, and to ignore what their mind is telling them, to know that God will show himself to them if they continue to humble themselves and repent and seek his favor. And that happened. Moses was given the 10 Commandments, and Jesus started his ministry directly after that 40 days. Of course, both men were faced a demonic attack after the fast, but they quickly got through that because they had the power and strength of God behind them. They both won. I just think that there's so much material, and this is one of the things that I use, and how, I talk to you about how I use the Bible to sort of help my life and help me, make decisions on how I'm going to live my life. And this is one of the things that has helped. If you want to make a difference, if you want to see change, there's sacrifice in that. It's not going to come just because you want it. It's going to come because you're sacrificing, because you're praying, because you're asking. And, there's also a partial fast. There's Acts 13:2, and where you could, possibly skip 1 or 2 meals and dedicate that particular time that you would be preparing and eating the meal, dedicate that time to prayer and dedicate it to speaking to the Holy Spirit and asking for either clear guidance or, ask for sharper hearing or for sharper eyesight to be able to see spiritually what's around you. Spirit, during these kinds of fasts, spirit becomes stronger within you. God meets you where you're at, so wherever you are trying to make a difference in your life, he will meet you there, and he will guide you and help you and give you direction. And there may be synchronicities that maybe not come directly from an angel coming from the sky, but he will send people or situations into your life that will guide you to answer the questions that you have presented to him, or will give you a road to go in order to fix the problem that you have presented to him. And I think that fasting in particular is a way to take back control of your body and give God ultimately the control. And then on a more spiritual level, and I don't know whether you believe in this or not. If you've never had to experience any kind of spiritual attack or seeing things that are of the evil nature, then I'm happy for you to some degree. Do I wish that you would? Yes, because that means you're starting to awaken a little. But anyway, the fasting and the sacrifice that we make can keep those kinds of demons at bay. The more you raise your energy, the more you raise your frequency within your own body. You take in pure foods. You take in pure liquids. You use fasting to help purify your body, and it keeps you from being comfortable, and it keeps you from being distracted and controlled by your own appetites. And that's where the evil in this world wants us to be. They want us controlled. They want us to be controlled by our own appetite. They'll market to us, right? They'll give us the opportunities. They're everywhere. But it's us who loses that control. They're not forcing it down your throat. We've just simply lost control of our own appetite, of our own means to be able to control ourselves. And we have to take that back. And that's part of, staying quiet too within your mind, is to follow that same path, to keep those kinds of things at bay, and to keep your energetic levels up, and to keep your frequency up, to stop those kinds of things from happening. So this has kind of gone longer than I thought it was going to. I still have more information to share, but I won't do that right now. But I do want to say, you could be just one fast away, one sacrifice away from a real breakthrough in your life, whether it be spiritually or physically. And so I would encourage you, a lot of people don't want to fast. They like their food, they like their lifestyle. But I would encourage you that if you're in any way struggling, whether it be emotionally, physically, spiritually, I would say give it a try. And if you need some assistance, let me know. I'm more than happy to help, give you some advice on what I did that worked for me. I can't guarantee that it will help work for you, but I can tell you what I did, and maybe that will help you. Till next time.